Hello again, everybody. Peter Elfman here, producer's blog. Today's date 202310.25. I am confident you will figure it out. How am I doing? Meh. Health issues suck. I hope you don't have to deal with them. I do. And the fourth quarter has always been the roughest time of year for me, and it's kind of started in a terrible place. But all we can do is keep marching forward. I'm currently working on a Christmas track because it takes me a while and I got to start early if I want to get it done on time. So keep your peepers out for that one. And I want to do a video on the somatic track that I put together. That's going to be hopefully coming up. Today, I'm going to start what I'm going to call very basically my hot take series. I'm not a big fan of hot takes, but occasionally a brother's got to have an opinion, and I got mine. Today's hot take, music theory. If you want to be a music producer on a professional level, absolutely, you must learn it. No ifs, ands, or buts. There are a lot of things out there. We've got Unison Audio, other entities trying to sell you plugins, chord packs, sample packs. And their big tagline in their advertising is, you don't need music theory. And if you're brand new, this may seem like a quick and easy shortcut. In the beginning, possibly. And even if you do know music theory, sometimes a chord pack or those plugins can help you cut certain corners. But if you know what you're doing, you can use those really effectively. Otherwise, you don't actually know what you're doing. Why do you need to know music theory? Think of it this way. Choosing a profession is very similar to choosing a place to live. If you move to a country where you don't speak the native language and you choose not to learn, you're only making your life more difficult for yourself. Music is, in many ways, a language. It conveys, in a broad and in a high sense, ideas and emotions, but it is evocative and it does convey certain information, and when placed in context with something can augment or even create new information through that context. If you don't know how to speak that language, you're just flailing. Additionally, everyone else in the industry, with extremely few exceptions, are going to speak the language, meaning they understand music theory. So if you want to interact with professionals in this field on any level, you're going to need to know what they're talking about when they say, let's hit the 2 chord on the 3rd beat. You got to know what that means. Now, having said that, I'm going to break it down a little bit for you because music theory is an extremely steep learning curve, but now that I've been in it for a couple of years, here's what I can tell you from a beginner to a beginner. Music theory is not complicated, but it is complex, and that is an important distinction. Something that's complicated has a lot of interconnected moving parts that is in delicate balance, and if you nick one thing here, the whole thing falls apart. Whereas something that's complex often has groups of moving parts, so that if you interact with a small part here, it may interact with a small group of things, but it's not going to interact with the whole. So with music theory, you can break it down into digestible chunks, and you can learn them in those chunks. So, like, for example, if you went to school during my day, you actually learned some music in school. I know they don't teach that anymore. Let me break it down for you. Here's an example. The most famous music theory teaching song in the English language is probably the song from The Sound of Music, Do Re Mi. That song is written in a major key, and as long as you understand what a major key is, it is extremely easy to play. I'm sure everyone has heard of minor keys, which is a different set of rules for choosing which notes to play within your octave. I am not going to break down these specific rules right now. I'm just letting you know that they exist because we're trying to keep it simple. So you've got your major keys, you've got your minor keys. Those are called modes. There are a bunch of other modes that you can learn, which are basically different rule sets for the intervals between the notes in a given key. So we're talking about the key of C and C major. Those are different notes from C minor, different notes from the other modes. You don't need to memorize all the modes off the bat. You can make plenty of music in major modes. You can make plenty of music in minor modes. You can make plenty of music interposing between the two. The opening theme for my audiobook actually flips between major and minor. Anyway, I haven't learned the other modes yet. I can't even memorize them yet. I don't need to yet, but I'm working myself up to it. So that's just an example of how you can take the whole of music theory, chop it up into bite-sized chunks, and then learn it on your own pace. And the more you do this, the more of it you'll learn. And the more you're interested in it, the faster you'll learn it. The other thing about music theory is that it applies to literally every piece of music written in the West, meaning Europe and America. Here's a fun bit of information I didn't find out till relatively recently. Different cultures have their own music theory, meaning the rules by which the music is expressed. So like what we're using is Western European standard or something like that. And then there's like China has their own, India famously has their own, Japan has their own, the Arabic speaking countries have their own. And I thought that was extremely fascinating. It was last year when I became today years old when I found that out. And I was like, what? It literally blew my mind. There's a great Adam Neely video on it. I gotta find it and link it to you. But the vast majority of the music that you're gonna interact with in America and in Europe uses music theory. So the more you understand music theory, the better your relationship to that music is going to be. But that's all I really wanted to say. If someone is telling you you don't have to learn music theory, they're lying to you. And also they're trying to sell you something. Pure and simple. But learning it is not as much of a daunting task as it might seem at first glance. I recommend doing what I'm doing, or something similar, which is every new song you write, do something different with music theory that you haven't done before. The Circle of Fifths is a great place to start. Pick a mode. That's a great place to start. I spent most of my life dealing with major mode, and most of what I've written is in minor mode, and I'm starting to feel comfortable with it. I'm not sure which one I'm going to tackle next, but I'm working myself up to it. So that'll be it. Don't take any shit from anybody, and I'll catch you next time.